I mentioned subshells. We're going to talk about them now because there is some good information here. Here is our lib greetings from last lesson. We're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to make this function a little bit bad, okay? We're going to say name equals $1, and we're going to say hello to name. That's what we're going to do, and we're going to say name equals $1, and we're going to say goodbye to name. Notice we are not using the local keyword. We are purposefully messing with the global scope because I'm going to show some of the differences here. So let's go ahead and make our new program, which will be curly verse parens. I'll explain that naming in a second, but let's go ahead and make a new bash script here. Bash, and then save that chmod +x curly verse parens, and let's go ahead and source that library. So lib greetings. We can be good here, and we can check to make sure the source actually works, and we can exit if it fails. That's super good. Now we have our greet function and we have our goodbye function. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's say greet Dave echo $name. So let's specify our name here as Buddy. So we've specified name as Buddy. We've greeted Dave, and now we're going to echo what name is set to. So after greeting Dave, let's see what it gets set to. I think you already know what's going to happen, but let's go ahead and run this. So we got hello, Dave, and after greeting Dave, we got Dave. Dave shows up a lot. Can we use a different name for this? Let's just do name equals that, and we'll do name equals that. So before name and after name. There we go. So we have our before and we have our after. So our before name is Buddy. We greet Dave by calling the greet function, and now our after name is Dave. That's not great, as you can tell. The greet function was able to modify the global scope. So there's a couple ways we can fix this. Of course we can fix this. We can do the local thing. If we just put the local keyword here, that fixes this issue. That is what you should be doing. You should be declaring your variables local in your function. That is the right way to do it. But there is another way to deal with this, and there's some other side effects. So I want to talk about this. Check this out. These curly braces are going to become parens. Now you may have noticed this. This is sort of a trend with Bash. If you remember the section I did on command substitution, you'll remember that there was a syntax with parentheses and a syntax with curly braces. The parentheses ran in its own subshell. The curly braces ran in the main shell. This is the same thing here. When you define a function, you can use parentheses instead of the curly braces, and this makes it all run in a subshell. So now, if I run this again, we can see that before name is Buddy, and after name is still Buddy. We're not using local. We're just using parentheses here to make it run in its own subshell. So that is a cool little trick. There are some times where you may want this, sometimes where you don't want this. This is just a good trick to have up your sleeve with Bash. It is a super nice way of saying, hey, this function should always kind of run in its own world. Don't ever let it modify anything in the global scope at all. You can kind of force your function to do this. So say you're sourcing someone else's function. Maybe I'm sourcing a library where I didn't write this code. And as you can see, we have the curly braces and we're not using local. So we're being bad. If we run this, you can see name got overridden to Dave at the end. There's still something we can do. We can force our own code to run in a subshell by just putting parentheses around it. This is valid. This totally works. If you run this, you put parentheses around it, now it won't affect the global scope. It can modify global variables, but once that subshell is over, those global variables don't actually get modified. They only get modified within the subshell. So you can wrap your code in parentheses like this. This is totally valid. It works just fine. And of course, like I mentioned, you can also use curly braces. If you use curly braces, you have to put the semicolon in. This is also totally valid, but you will modify the global scope. Now you might be wondering, why would I ever want to do this? Well, the beautiful thing is that we can do pipelines here. So I could TR and replace A with O to turn Dave into Dove. I could do that like here in its own little world. And you may be wondering, why would I want to do that? Because then outside of this, I can pipe this whole thing to another program. So in this example, I could just have one in pipeline, but this is a cool way of chaining commands together and having compound commands. So I could pipe this all to NL. And I don't know if we've taught NL, but it adds line numbers, NL for numbering lines. So we can see that there's only one line here. So hello, Dove. So this is beautiful because this could also just be a parenthesis. Get rid of that semicolon, put the parenthesis here. So you can group commands together in a subshell and then pipe the entire subshell to another command. Pipelines are very powerful in Bash, as you can see. So really neat stuff, really cool things you can do with this.